Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, I promised you last week that we would be back here now, and here we are. For those of you who have been commenting on my hair, can't do anything about it, I'm sorry. So I may buy a lawnmower. Thank you for all of your emails this past week. Thank you for asking your questions or raising your challenges. Thank you for allowing this 2,500-year-old conversation with the Torah to remain so very lively and sometimes so very contentious. And thank you for trusting me enough to share with me some of your fears and your concerns. We are family. Though we may never meet outside of this virtual world, Torah is our shared DNA. That way, nothing can ever make us truly alone. Our Sedra is EMOR, Leviticus 24:1, and Saturday, May 9th, is the 30th day of the counting of the Omer. So, Lag BaOmer itself, the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer, will be this coming Tuesday. Did you know that there is a connection between Lag BaOmer and a plague? But that connection is so highly unlikely that we can say that Lag BaOmer itself is somewhat plagued by fake news. How very contemporary. The counting of 49 harvest days between Passover and Shavuot is in the Torah. Very straightforward. The 33rd day of the counting has absolutely no special significance in the Torah. The 33rd day is no more important than the 22nd day or the 40th day of the counting of the Omer. But then we find a reference in the Talmud to a plague that occurred during the time of Rabbi Akiva, a plague during which 24,000 yeshiva students died. But miraculously, on the 33rd day, on Lag BaOmer, the plague afflicted no one. No one took ill, no one died for 24 hours. And therefore, the 48 days, according to the rabbis in the Talmud, of the Omer were to be observed as they were, but that 49th day, which the 33rd day in the counting of the Omer, that day is to be a true celebration. Hundreds of years later, Lag BaOmer continued to evolve. It became what? A scholar's holiday. It became a day of outdoor activities and of picnics. It became a time for children to play with bows and arrows, rubber tips, and ultimately became intimately intertwined with the development of Jewish mysticism. And in our own day, Lag BaOmer has become the day when, in Orthodox households, 3-year-old boys are given their first haircuts in a ceremony called Ushperin. And to add to all of this, 19th century Zionists reinterpreted the notion of a plague during Rabbi Akiva's time to be a veiled reference to Jewish deaths that occurred during an armed revolution against Rome in the Bar Kokhba period. So this coming Tuesday is Lag BaOmer. That's a fact. It's a day that may very well be observed with outdoor picnics and grilling and even bows and arrows, rubber tip, in parts of Israel as restraints regarding COVID-19 are being lifted there. Thus facts. There is no known connection with the plague, a fact. There may be a veiled reference to the Bar Kokhba revolt, maybe a fact. But here's the big news. This coming Tuesday is a great day to plan to have some fun. Who cares about the reasons? Jewish tradition says that we should party, so let's go forward and party. even while locked in solitary confinement, even if we can't push back the fake news so as to discover what actually happened 2,000 years ago. Let's call that party Lag Bomer. Let's hold a party on Zoom. Let's get some fun food delivered. Let's just plain enjoy ourselves. We deserve such a date. We really do. Let's do it. Okay, to the Sedra. Beginning with Leviticus 23:1, our Sedra EMOR focuses very specifically on what we would call the holiday calendar. Here we read about the beginning of Jewish holy days on the evening before. Here we read of Shabbat and Passover, and the counting of the Omer, and of Shavuot, and of a strange blending of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, together with Sukkot, when we begin to get the feeling that in the early days, Sukkot was more important than Yom Kippur. This is not the only section in the Torah that treats the calendar with real care, nor are the various statements in the Torah about the calendar totally congruent. But one thing is clear. In the formation of the Jewish people, the structure of the calendar was considered to be extremely important. And what was true then is no less true today. So a few questions about the calendar. When you put all the Torah regulations about the calendar together, do you get the calendar that we have today? The answer, nope, not nearly. What's missing? You got 5 seconds. What's missing from the Torah calendars? No Hanukkah, no Purim, no Lag Bomer, no Tu B'Shvat, no Tisha B'Av, no Yom Ha'atzmaut in the Torah. They all come later. All right. That makes sense. Well, can we at least say that the Torah calendar is unique, a one-off created by and for the Jewish people? No, not really. The Torah calendar is an obvious adaptation of the Babylonian calendar. Having a spring cleaning is part of a universal tradition. Connecting major festivals with the flow of the agricultural year, it's also universal. The Sukkah booth is not unique to us. The names of the months are borrowed mainly from Babylonia. Maybe the most original contribution made by our people is the insistence upon dividing the calendar into 7-day segments. Do you know that even the idea that year 0, year 1, whatever, of the calendar is creation, that idea only started in the Middle Ages. It's not Talmudic, it's not biblical. We have ample evidence that the power of setting festival dates was extremely important. One of the huge differences between the Rabbinites and the Karaites dealt with calendar. One of the great battlegrounds between Palestinian and Babylonian rabbinic centers involved the setting of dates for various religious observances. Real power was often defined by who controlled the religious calendar. Why so? Shai Held brilliantly teaches 2 things. That a calendar represents an enormously successful way to bring order out of the chaos of our lives. Secondly, a calendar is an extraordinary way to impose meaning upon life itself. Just think about these days of sheltering in place. The normal calendar just doesn't matter right now. But in my household, Sunday is my day to totally clean the apartment, including the bathrooms and the halls. On Monday, we place our weekly food delivery order. On Wednesday, I sent out reminders for the Zoom classes that I teach. Friday evenings, we coordinate a brief Kabbalat Shabbat with our 4 family households and some friends. Without such markers, without a fixed calendar, our lives really would be chaotic. And calendars teach. Think of every Jewish holiday and consider what lessons have been grafted upon them. The calendar is the absolutely very best delivery system of Jewish values from generation to generation. I like what I wrote so well, I'm going to repeat it. The calendar is the absolutely very best delivery system of Jewish values from generation to generation. Through the calendar, we relive each year the seminal moments of our people's existence. And the calendar connects us across time to all Jews who ever lived, even as the calendar connects us across space to every other Jew in the world. When we preserve our calendar, we are preserving ourselves. So please, here we go. First of all, make certain that you set up a wonderful celebration for yourselves on Tuesday. Call it Lag BaOmer if you will. Make having fun that day into a religious obligation. It is a mitzvah to party this coming Tuesday. Just do it. And secondly, out of the isolation of this dreadful period, become aware of the role that the traditional Jewish calendar can play in our lives, and allow that new awareness to remain with us long after we can take our masks and our gloves off. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Please stay in touch, and we will be together next week. Shabbat Shalom.